Hello, everybody. Welcome to the We Have Issues podcast. Today, we're going to be covering the State of the Union address. And today, we're going to be reviewing the things that Trump spoke about. But first, let's give a formal introduction. My name is Carvell.
I'm Chris.
I'm Matt.
So on February 24th, 2026, in the State of the Union address, President Trump, he went over a few economic and domestic policies. To give you a highlight, there was, he spoke about the tax relief and the measure of the jobs. He focused on affordability for families, the energy policy and American energy dominance. He spoke about insurance and what it was going to look like in the future, and claims on significant reduction in inflation and lowering costs. And there were some other narratives, especially one of the things that he did that didn't go unnoticed was him pointing out a lot of the flaws of the Democrats, particularly Joe Biden as well. So this was such a very interesting State of the Union address, kind of something that we haven't seen in a long time because it was the longest State of the Union address that we witnessed in American history.
First off, no mention of the Epstein files. Just going to throw that out there. Gee, I wonder why. Besides that, Trump actually spoke really well. Much better than he's done in some more recent sorts of interviews and clips. He brought some energy that I did not believe he had left in him. And I can see why he gained a lot of voters. However, a lot of what he said was not true, or at least not entirely true. But he said it with such confidence that, you know, people and the pep rally crowd he had behind him, everybody clapping every 5 minutes. I swear I haven't seen Republicans clap harder than when Netanyahu arrived in Congress so they could pay homage to him. But like,
except Mike Johnson looked like he was going to cry the whole time.
Oh my God! Oh, don't even get me started on Mike
Ellen
Johnson.
DeGeneres over there.
It was a complete showing of the divide within this country. The Democrats, they remained silent, you know, a few heckles here and there at certain points. Not as many as I would have liked if the Democrats wanted to appear to have any sort of strength against the Republicans. I don't even know what their strategy during the State of the Union really was. It was just a pep rally. It was the home crowd, the Republicans, versus the away crowd, the Democrats, and you could tell real easily.
Yeah, like you said, I think Trump spoke more strongly than he has in previous speeches. And of course, Carvell mentioned how long the speech went for. So I think that was a really good showing. I think there was a bad taste in everybody's mouths from Biden and his speeches. So I think that made Trump look really strong, made him look like he had a lot of energy. Main things that I did not like about it is I could have done without having to mention hockey. Just that's because I don't like hockey. But you know, you give the Medal of Freedom to the goalie, so now there's hope for towel manager positions everywhere, I suppose. But you know, Trump mentioned some things like the ratepayer protection pledge for the, you know, the AI data centers. Trump promises that people's energy costs are going to go down because of this, you know, requiring data centers to produce their own power. If that is true, I don't like the ramifications of having to build specialized power plants specifically for one small industry in an area. Also, I just don't think it's true. We're seeing rates go up, and we see people saying that it's supposed to decrease the cost of electricity for the you know, surrounding communities, but we're just not seeing that happen. So I think that's BS, and I think there's a lot of lofty talk about the economy and jobs and things like that. And Trump, it's tough to say because Trump says, inflation is going down. They're reducing inflation, but that's not really how inflation works. And to be fair, every politician says that. Inflation does not go away. It just slows. That's the more accurate way to display that. And we have seen some prices drop on some stuff, but I think in general, most Americans don't feel like the economy is doing any better. Some probably feel like it's doing even worse. And his healthcare talks, there's been some prescriptions that we've seen lower cost on thanks to Trump. The healthcare plan, we still don't have. We have names for healthcare plans, but we really haven't seen a fleshed out healthcare plan that's going to dethrone the Affordable Care Act. The only thing in that regard that he brought up that I was a fan of was he talked about how pricing transparency is important. So hopefully he can get on that. So that's kind of the things I didn't like. Positives were Al Green holding up a sign that said black people are not apes, and that's just like a god level troll on Darwinian evolutionists, because they're sitting there and they're like, oh, can't argue that, but and Trump of course hit on immigration really hard. That's something he was elected on, and that was one of the main things that voters wanted to hear about. He has closed up the border. There have been deportations, probably not as much as the MAGA side was hoping would happen. Most of the deportations have been self-deportations, but I think Trump was very strong on immigration, and he recognized a lot of people who have contributed a lot, sacrificed a lot for America. And in doing that, he also continued to hammer on immigration, like bringing up Irina Zarutska, who was murdered in North Carolina. And he really just called the Democrats out. I mean, he gave them the rope to hang themselves on this, because he made it appear like the Democratic Party hates him more than they care about representing Americans. And I think
that line, everybody stand up if you think that American citizens should be valued ahead of immigrants.
Well,
immigrants.
Yes, and a large part, majority, that is a good statement to make, because I feel like kind of at the ASP where we kind of, we have that dignity of everybody value.
I think that's a really like weaselly way to put that. Like, the number one thing we should be doing is protecting citizens' rights over somebody else's. And it's like, you can take that a lot of different ways. Like, I mean, shouldn't they be, supporting everyone's rights? Because, while the country should primarily be for the benefit of the citizens, we do have tourists, we do have guests that come in, some invited, and even uninvited people. Like, there's a basic level of human rights. The Declaration of Independence says all men are created equal, not some men are more equal than others, even though that was kind of what ended up happening when the Constitution was written, right?
Right.
But
and precisely, you're exactly right. But that's the nuance, that when you're just sitting there watching or you're listening, you don't have, your brain doesn't function that way. So it's just a bad look when you say,
right,
are you going to look out for American citizens? And you see people
it makes it seem like you're prioritizing the illegals over American citizens.
But even that, I would be fine with the Democrats staying seated for something that's directly tied to Trump, if that's how they, so wish to display their displeasure with him. But when you offer medals and awards and rewards to war veterans and heroes and first responders, and you bring on the angel moms and things like that, and you can't stand up for that to recognize them as people, as constituents. I mean, Irina was a Democrat. She was a Black Lives Matter supporter, and she couldn't even get the time of day from the Democrats. In fact, I think the only one that frequently stood up was John Fetterman. The Fetterman arc has been insane. But that's just, man, how's that going to look, especially knowing how many independents, undecided, disenfranchised voters watched that State of the Union? Man, it was just the Democrats bombed this one. This was a Trump uppercut.
And when I saw the State of the Union address and a lot of people sitting down, that actually didn't alarm me, because this is actually something that's just not new. This is something that I've seen over and over again in the State of the Union address. Since I've kind of been somewhat into politics during George W. Bush's, reign in office, I've seen where the Democrats sat down and, especially during his policies and things, with the Iraq War and tax cuts, and then they have people, veterans or whatever, that might come out or whatever. This is something I feel like it's not new. Democrats will sit down, Republicans will sit down. I remember so many Republicans sitting down when Obama was talking.
Oh, and Obama threw major shade at George Bush, so it goes both ways. Yes.
Yeah. So it's to me, it's not something new. But however, what I hadn't seen before was Trump really pushing to the Democrats at a State in the Union address. I've seen Obama talk about some Republican leaders that were sitting down, perhaps, but never really getting into the Republicans while they were sitting down. So this was like new territory for me, where I saw Trump, like it was like he was often and always just not appeased by anything the Democrats did while they're inside the building. So I think that's something that was newer to me, but them not standing up, that's nothing newer to me. But however, Trump is he's very smart in trying to get people on his side. Like, hey, look, this is what they're doing right here. Look at them sitting down. They're not even standing up for that. Oh my gosh, what kind of people are doing it? What kind of people do this? But in reality, this has been happening all the time. So
and I think that's part of what people like, why they've latched onto it, Carvell, is he's marketed it very well, and they see it as him holding them accountable for what their failures.
I mean, he has, he's marketing it very well. And if you listen to a lot of his speech and you don't fact check anything, it was a wonderful speech. Yep. It was a great speech, because you think, wow, Trump did all this. 2 years ago, it was hectic. It wasn't, but in your mind, the way Trump explains it, it makes me feel like I had illegals kicking in my door, and had he not been in the office, I would have been done in the dirt right now. That's what he made it feel like. And so he's really great at manipulating your spirit in such a way to make you believe that you were in imminent danger until he got there, and that's what he's perfect at. And for me, I didn't originally watch the State of the Union. I only watched it for this podcast. I didn't watch it because it's getting to the point where Trump is actually getting better at deception. He's getting much better at his deception, and he's talking better, and I can't tell the difference sometimes. He might say something that's truly false. Matt, you were just talking about the energy thing. Mm-hmm. I have absolutely no idea. You said you don't like it. I actually thought it was a really good idea. But it sounds really good to me, but it could be something that is somebody like me that wants itching ears. Because you guys got to understand, I live in Michigan. Michigan, we get a lot of our energy from Canada, right? These tariffs with Canada are ridiculous. Our grids are 30, 40 years old. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much you guys pay for electricity, but I live in a 2-bedroom apartment building, and I think my DTE was near $100, and in the end, it's only 2 of us, so we're not using that much energy. But just to give you guys an idea, I don't know how much you guys pay, but you got to understand, our place is small, and this gives you an idea. Hey, if let's say General Motors, if they can figure out a way to create their own way of making their own energy off the grid, that's going to help me out. So that's good. I'm going to give you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So for me, that was the good. The whole energy thing he was talking about, and I'm all about energy, and I love that. So that was the good. The bad for me was him talking about changing Obamacare, but not actually putting a real solution in place.
What do you mean?
I'm
He's got those prescriptions down, Carvell.
Yeah, and it's like I read something online that they're talking about deductibles being $30,000. What's the point of having insurance if your deductible is $30,000?
That might be what they're going for.
It's for the benefit of the insurance companies. It's the exact same thing he claimed Obamacare only did.
And it's quite ridiculous. I remember, I mean, you guys are old enough. I remember when insurance was hard to come by. I remember I had like an accident. I had no insurance, and I was a college student. I had no insurance. My knee was jacked up. I went to go get an x-ray. They charged me like $300 as a student. And I actually needed surgery, and I didn't get surgery. And it was something that's like, man, this sucks. And then the very next year, I took a job over in Korea, and I had their universal health insurance, and I got surgery, and I hurt my knee again, but it was the other knee, completely tore my patella tendon. But I got it fixed on my left knee because it had just happened, and out like surgery in the hospital for 3 weeks, and having care, all that was like a $1,500 out of pocket. And I was just like, this is what we need to aspire for in America, but we didn't have that. So now that we have something like not as good but similar, come on, don't take that away. So the ugly for me was that Trump said that he was not going to touch Medicaid. Medicaid was not going to be touched. But then the very next day, J.D. Vance said he's going to withhold $259 million in Medicaid fund for Minnesota. What are you doing here? You just said the day before Medicaid was not going to be touched, but now it's
that was a whole day, Carvell. We live in an entirely different world than we were yesterday.
and that's the thing for me, is that this is one of the reasons why I didn't want to watch the State of the Union, because it's this deceptiveness of it all. It's, you're deceiving me. Like, I'm believing everything you're telling me, and then the very next day, it's gone. You're giving me good ear candy, right? Trump must have been a player beyond players, because he gives the ear candy, and even the dudes love it. Even the dudes stand up and clap their hands, hands blistering and everything,
Well, and it's tough to distinguish, and all politicians are guilty of this. One of the things Trump said is, he touted how energy production is up, natural gas production is way up, and all of this. Not really. It really hasn't changed. And in fact, it may have tapered off slightly since Biden was in office. We had massive energy production when Biden was in office, but it was due a lot to the leases and infrastructure that was put in place in Trump's first term. And Biden just kind of coasted along on that. I think the number of drilling rigs may have dropped a little bit, but gas prices jumped up. Everybody likes to call that, but that's due to the Ukrainian war and things like that. So, Trump makes it out like he came back in office and energy production ramped back up. It's like you're saying, Carvell, it's a half truth. Yeah, energy's booming, is doing well, but it's not like you got in and saved it, Trump. And so it's just a political thing. It's a tactic. They say these half truths. He talks about grocery prices being down. It kind of depends on what you're looking at, what grocery prices, and what's relevant to that. So it's hard to look between the lines. I mean, Chris sent us that factcheck.org document, and it's like this freaking, it's like you unroll the scroll. I mean, that's, so.
Right.
First off, on to your comment about the AI energy plants that they want to build. My major concern with that is Trump has been rolling back a lot of environmental protections recently. I do not trust them building more power plants if it's not environmentally feasible. I feel that is just going to create more problems in the distant future than it solves in the immediate, and that's something that we need to look at for sure. But some of his spicier claims that I've kind of been drawn to: more Americans working. Yeah, technically true. there's a lot more Americans. We only grew jobs by 359,000 jobs in the last year. The last year of Biden, we grew jobs by 1.2 million. So great job, Trump. You did a third of what Biden did. Congratulations. Stock market gains. Yeah, the stock market went up under Trump, but guess what? It goes up every presidency. Biden's final 2 years, the stock market jumped up by 20%. How much did it jump up in the last year? 13%. Again, great job, Trump. You're half as good as Biden was. But prior to that, the stock market rose 166% during Obama's terms. It went up 68% under Trump's first term. And over Biden's tenure, 58% total for his 4 years. Green line just goes up. It doesn't have any relation to the economy at all. As the stock market has increased, my purchasing power has gone down. So don't tell me that is a positive. Food prices? Yeah, I can afford eggs now. I still can't afford a hamburger. No matter how much Trump says we're working on it. Doubt that right there, but 2.2% year over year, that's how much groceries have increased. So they are going up by the consumer price index. He says that he's got 18 trillion in foreign investments into this country. That's not what the White House says. The White House website only says they have 9.6 trillion. And of that, most of that is pledges and promises of investment. Until you have a contract, that is as good as what their word is, and their words are worthless. And in fact, a lot of those Trump investments that he's gotten, one of them was a $500 billion AI infrastructure investment that Biden did in March 2024 before the election was even going on. So what do you know with that? He says that he's responsible for 56% less fentanyl. What data do you have on that? Like, we've collected half as much fentanyl as we did last year, but we've also had a lot less fentanyl deaths. So
those are tough numbers to collaborate.
Right. Like, you can't prove anything. Might as well just make up whatever you want. He said that he got rid of rampant crime. Crime's been decreasing since 2022, which Trump has nothing to do with. I think it wouldn't be out of the realm for Trump to claim that he's the reason that the sun is going to rise tomorrow morning.
Oh, yeah.
And and all of his sycophants would stand up and clap to that like a bunch of circus seals.
And he'll go on and say, "Oh, you see, that's why I'm orange, because I stood in front of the sun." So it's rise.
Chris says this, and what's going to happen is Bill Gates is going to come out with like a Mr. Burns sunblock, and Trump's going to nix it, and it's going to be true. It'll be true.
Here's the thing too. It's like sometimes this reality that Trump talks about, because he did talk about manufacturing, but he breezed over it, right? But he said it in a good light. Living here in Michigan, you guys know it's the automotive capital of the world. Detroit is. And I can tell you, Stellantis, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, they lost $26 billion last year in 1 year. Ford lost $8 billion. General Motors lost $2.7 billion. And why? It's because of Trump's tariffs, it's because of his antics, and it's because of his war against renewable energy. And this is actually what this does to the state of Michigan is it causes a lot. It's a domino effect, because if I'm a supplier to GM or Stellantis, I don't have any more work because they're out of work. And if you provide bolts and nuts for me, you're out of work too. So a lot of people in Michigan, our economy is getting hit hard because of this. And we sit here, some of us, and we look at the State of the Union, we hear Trump say how well we're doing. We're like, ooh, not me, maybe, I don't know, maybe in Texas where they get all the oil, I don't know, but like, you don't need to create a war on renewable energy. That's one of the issues that we have. So I'll say this again. The way that Trump delivered his message was really great. That is one of the reasons why I couldn't watch it, because there's so much truth tangled in lies. And once you hear something, if you hear something that your itching ears are willing to hear, like let's say for an example, the stock market, right? Chris, you touched up on the stock market. Actually, up until COVID, Trump was killing it in the stock market. It was booming. This administration, this term, it was expected to do the same thing, and it is going up. But what we're seeing nowadays, especially with his tax cuts, and especially how he's giving in to big guys, and the little guys are being pushed aside. What we're seeing now in the stock market is that we see people, we see it's less tied to the economy, less tied to the working people, and more tied to the rich people. And what I mean by that is now you're seeing with all these tax cuts, what these companies are doing now is they're just buying their own stocks back. They're pushing out the little guy. And now what you're trying to do is you're trying to protect the stock market, which a lot of people have their 401ks in, which is great, but it actually says nothing about the economy. And it used to, in my opinion, but now when Elon Musk is going to be a trillionaire next year, that's going to do absolutely nothing for us three.
Well, it's boomernomics, Carvell. I mean, Trump my gosh, he's in his almost 80s. Maybe he is 80 now, but I mean, he's still got this mindset that a lot of older people have, that is this Reagan-esque kind of economic idea of trickle down. And, if you invest, if you do tax cuts for big business, then they hire more and they expand. And that's not how it works anymore.
Yeah, they just buy back their own stock.
They buy back their own stock. They invest overseas. They produce. You're talking about the automotive industry, Carvell. I mean, part of Ford's failure is Ford's making crap people don't want or they can't afford. It just doesn't work that way anymore. We have to start tailoring things to American manufacturing and small business here. Cutting corporate taxes and all of this, that just doesn't work anymore.
Well, with Ford and Stellantis and GM, Ford is actually the better of the three, I think. With those three, the thing about it is, and I know a lot of people hate them, but unions do a pretty decent job at keeping them in check. And sometimes I think the unions are too greedy,
Mm-hmm.
But
can't ever be too greedy.
Yeah, but we're talking about like greedy unions taken from the greedy,
that's perfect. Then you want to. That's why you want a greedy union.
So that's actually how it's
on the worker, right? Though, Chris, is what he's trying to say.
And so this, like Stellantis, is for the first time in a while, is not going to give any checks to all their workers because they usually give a profit sharing check, and they're not giving anything this year because they did quite a bad job.
Right.
Because they did quite a bad job, workers have to suffer for it. And this is kind of the economy that Trump wants. I think, just make this last point, I think that Trump is the way he is because he's never been poor. He just needs to be poor for 2 years. just take all his money away for 2 years. Take his wife, take his kids, take his money, take everything. Give him Job. Let him be Job for about a year.
He still wouldn't get it because, Carvell, he'd be new poor. We're old poor. We understand.
No, Carvell is right. I mean, we weren't rich, but my family were business owners, and after my dad died, we didn't have health insurance. He spent everything, trying to recover. And about that, he died on my 13th birthday. So at 13, it was an instant lifestyle change. And we weren't just destitute, but you're right, Carvell. It is a huge perspective shift. And if Trump was poor for a couple of years, it might really change how he handles things.
What do you think that the ASP perspective would be on Trump's State of the Union? Basically what we said.
It's
Orange Man's bad.
I think they would hate it, but they'll hate it because it was good. Like, I hate it because it was good. And
but see, that's the thing. It's not good. It's like junk food. It is appealing. It's not good. It's appealing. That is the perfect
way you put it, Chris. It's good ass junk food. It's not good for you, but it tastes so good.
Yeah.
And and after you had it, you're like, that was the worst thing in the world. But damn it,
I feel like shit afterwards,
That's
but
a
you
good
know
way to
what?
put it.
Like
So,
that tasted
That's,
good.
I mean, but that's bread and circuses. That's the theatrics of politics for you. I mean, yes, Chris, you put it aptly. It's a pep rally, but isn't that what you want? Because you can compare and contrast it to like Biden's Battle for the Soul speech, which was essentially a State of the Union speech. I mean, you had this blood red backdrop, and you had like the Gestapo soldiers next to him, and it was all just him fist pounding and talking about how terrible. That was one of the things you feel like hell after. So I'm sure there's some people in the party that will take it for what it's worth and will glean the positives from it. And we all just know, like you're saying, Chris, it was just a feel-good injection into people. So overall, I don't think it would be favorable among the ASP. 2/3 of people that watched it found it favorable, with almost half of that saying it was very favorable. So the numbers are actually kind of on Trump's side there with it. But at the same time, the American Solidarity Party is interested in real change. We want our chance at power so we can implement things that makes the lives of Americans better. So for us, it's kind of just salt in a wound.
For me, I think the party just sees it as, an opportunity of how necessary like a reasonable voice is in this country. I mean, we saw both the Democrats and the Republicans acting like children. Again, the pep rally attitude. One side's the away team, one side's the home team. I mean, when in reality, we should all be on the same side, on the side of improving American lives. Right. And we don't have that politics in this country right now. That's why we want to be involved in politics. That's why we have so many people engaging and volunteering and taking part in the American Solidarity Party, because we want real change. We want an adult in the room, and no other political party brings that maturity that we had for so many years in this country, and have seemingly just lost the plot with.
Thank you guys for joining the We Have Issues podcast. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, or leave a message. Let us know what you thought. What is your opinion on the State of the Union address? Once again, my name is Carvell.
I'm Chris.
I'm Matt.
Thank you for joining the We Have Issues podcast.